can take a few moments to bring our mind into this place and allow ourselves to really arrive. Give yourself time to get comfortable. Take a few deep, cleansing breaths. With each out-breath, let go of anything keeping you from really being here. And with each in-breath, allow yourself to come more and more into your body and this room. It's important to maintain the posture of meditation, where we keep our feet flat on the floor and our back straight. Keeping our body still to allow our mind to become still. Let's take a few moments to set our motivation for spending this time together. In Buddhism, it's taught that we should contemplate our own death and the death process as a way of getting it that we have a limited amount of time. We do this so we won't waste the time we have left. The meditation we'll do tonight comes from Tantra and involves not only visualizing our own death, but actually visualizing the dissolution of the elements that make up this body, from gross to subtle, and the dissolution of the mind down to the most subtle mind of clear light. To imagine this not only prepares us for our eventual death, but also shows us that the person we make so important and think is the center of the universe is actually nothing more than matter that dissolves and energy. It's also good to remember that you could have died last night, but you didn't, and to feel a great joy about that. Lots of people did die last night, and one day you will die. But today you have this amazing opportunity to practice. Practice, by the way, just means working with whatever arises moment by moment, with whatever tools you have so you can get closer to the truth, whatever that truth means to you, but especially to be able to transcend this suffering, samsaric mind of ours. We take it for granted that we're still alive. We have to really get it that this day is our gift to use, just like this life is a precious gift to use as we wish and that it won't last forever. Because of not realizing that everything is constantly changing and decaying, we constantly waste our lives on meaningless things without making the time to discover the true nature and potential of our own minds. This is exactly what motivation is all about, getting to know our own minds and working with them to understand reality as the Buddha experienced it. Let's motivate to use this session to explore some of these ideas so that ultimately we can benefit others as well as ourselves. So you would normally start this with a short meditation on the breath for 15 minutes, which those of us that are here have already done. We have Donn and Tysa here in the 12-Step Buddhist podcast enclosure. And we just did a 15-minute meditation. So if you'd like to now stop the podcast and go ahead and do a 15-minute quiet meditation, and then turn it back on after you're calm and relaxed. Welcome back. We've been talking about how meditating isn't something holy in itself, but it's just a practical tool. The Buddha observed that lasting happiness is possible, and that all of us have the potential to experience it. The key to our happiness lies within our own minds. Meditation is all about changing your relationship with reality. Part of this is just slowing down and watching how our mind jumps around and how we give those thoughts so much power over us. But it's important to know that meditation isn't just sitting up straight, and the goal isn't to empty your head of thoughts. The goal is actually to get closer to the truth, which just means reality. So we try to stop following those thoughts as they arise. We learn not to give those distracting thoughts attention or energy, but we notice how we want to give them energy or importance. Notice how your mind is so easily pulled away. Meditation isn't about finding some bit of peace and then losing it as soon as we go outside. It's about changing our view of what reality is and trying to work with that day by day. We start on the cushion, but the real practice is in the world. So really, our meditation becomes the lens through which we are able to relate to others and the world. People sometimes think incorrectly that pure practice is blissful and quiet and so on. But it's not always blissful. And it's not always quiet because you are just working with your mind and then working in the world with whatever comes up. Meditation has the effect of calming the mind because you're not allowing your mind to crazily follow everything that pops up. But that's not the whole story. Meditation is part of how we work with the Buddha's teachings in our life. We also need to study and contemplate them. We do two main types of meditation in the Tibetan tradition. Concentration, also called stabilizing meditation. It's also known as shamatha or shine. And the other, which is called analytical meditation. Both of them work to transform your mind, and they both depend on the other. We've done concentration meditation first as a way of sharpening our mind. That was our 15 minutes. Now we'll do an analytical meditation on death. This is called the 8 stages of dissolution of the death process. We begin by imagining a scenario in which you are facing your own death. Imagine yourself in a hospice or hospital lying in bed. You've been ill for some time and have come to terms with it and said your goodbyes. You are ready to let go, but wondering what's next. If possible, you can have someone else read this to you or tape yourself reading it and do this one lying on your back. Excuse me. Phase 1. Earth element dissolves into the water element. When the earth element loses its power, your body becomes very thin. Your limbs loosen and you feel as if the body is sinking under the earth. This can take a long time or happen quickly as you age before your time with a terminal illness, for example. Imagine what this feels like. During the active process of dying, this feels like the weight of the earth is on you. You may have a sense of sinking, falling, or the feeling of being buried or trapped under a weight. And you struggle upwards to fight against it. When the aggregate of form absorbs, your limbs become thinner and your body becomes weak and powerless. The luster of your body diminishes and all your strength is consumed. Your vitality is definitely weakening. When the basic mirror-like wisdom dissolves, your sight becomes unclear and dark. Your ability to perceive many things simultaneously decreases. This affects the eye sense. You cannot open or close your eyes or move them. You experience an internal sign of this stage, which is an appearance of a shimmering, silvery blue mirage. The next phase is when the water element dissolves into the fire element. When the water element loses its power, your body fluids, such as saliva, sweat, urine, blood, and so on, begin to dry up. You especially experience this in your mouth and tongue feeling dry. The aggregate of feelings absorbs, so your body or touch consciousness can no longer experience the three types of feelings that accompany sense consciousness. When the basic wisdom of equality dissolves, your ordinary consciousness, mindful of pleasure, pain, and neutral feelings, you are no longer aware of the feelings that accompany the mental consciousness. This affects the ear sense. You can no longer hear external or internal sounds. It's like a buzzing and then silence. Even the normal ringing in the ears stops. You experience an internal sign, an appearance of smoke, like the thin smoke from a stick of incense. Next is phase 3. The fire element dissolves into the wind element. When the fire element loses its power, warmth begins to diminish, and you can no longer digest food or drink. Your limbs, hands, and feet become cold. When the aggregate of discrimination absorbs, you are no longer aware of affairs of people close to you. When the basic wisdom of analysis dissolves, you can no longer remember the names of people close to you. This affects the nose sense. Your inhalation weakens and your exhalation is strong and lengthy. Your sense of smell is gone. You experience an internal sign, an appearance of fireflies or sparks within dark smoke. The next phase, phase 4, the wind element dissolves into the consciousness. When the wind element loses its power, the 10 winds move to the heart, causing your inhalation and exhalation to cease. When the aggregate of compositional factors absorbs, you can no longer move or experience touch. When the basic wisdom of achieving activities dissolves, you are no longer aware of external worldly activities or purposes. This affects the tongue or taste sense. Your tongue becomes thick and short, and the root of it turns blue. You experience an internal sign, an appearance of a dull orangey red light about to go out, like a flickering candle flame or butter lamp about to go out. From the Western point of view, one would now be clinically dead. But from a Tibetan point of view, only the gross mind, including the 6 consciousnesses of sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and mental consciousness, and the 4 physical elements have dissolved. As long as warmth is still in the body, the consciousness is still in the body. Phase 5, 80 instinctive conceptions dissolve. When the aggregate of consciousness dissolves, the 80 conceptions dissolve. This means your last conceptual thoughts of any kind, including both delusions and virtuous thoughts, cease. Your mind becomes more and more subtle over these next 4 phases. The winds in the right and left channels above the heart enter the central channel at the crown of your head, and the white substance at the top of your head moves downward. You experience an internal sign. clear vacuity or vast space filled with white light. This is the arising of the subtle mind. This is called the white vision. Some say it appears like a clear autumn sky suffused by white moonlight without the moon. Phase 6, white appearance, dissolves. The winds in your right and left channel below your heart enter the central channel, at the base of your spine, and the red substance at your navel is moving upwards. You experience an internal sign. The white vision dissolves, and one experiences a very clear vacuity or vast space filled with a coppery red light. The white appearance dissolves into an even brighter appearance of red, which increases. Some say it appears like a clearer autumn sky suffused by red sunlight, but without the sun. Phase 7, red appearance, dissolves. The upper and lower winds gather at your heart and enter the indestructible drop at your heart chakra. You experience an internal sign. The red appearance dissolves into black, near attainment, and one experiences a very clear vacuity filled with total darkness, which ends with a moment of unconsciousness, like fainting. Phase 8. Dark near attainment ceases, and mind of clear light dawns. All the winds and the white and red drops dissolve into the very subtle wind and mind in the indestructible drop at your heart. You experience an internal sign. A very clear vacuity or vast space filled with clear light. This is the mind of clear light, like the sky just before dawn in autumn in the Himalayas. This is the most subtle and pure level of our mind, the deepest level of consciousness, which is called the fundamental, innate mind of clear light. Focus on this light for a few moments, or as long as you can. Now allow your mind to go quickly back through these stages into your present body again. Your consciousness passes back through the stages of dissolution in reverse order, from clear light into dark near attainment, into red vision, into white vision, into the flickering light of a candle, into sparks, into smoke, like a stick of incense into a shimmery blue mirage. Become aware of the sounds around you and your cushion beneath you. If this had been your actual death, you would have come into a bardo or intermediate state body from which you would take your next rebirth. As a meditator, you can practice this meditation to prepare for your death and to understand how the energies of the body and levels of mind work, so that you can utilize them now and at that moment. Experienced meditators use that moment of clear light to penetrate deeply into the actual nature of reality. Dedicate this meditation to being able to use this life to prepare not only for a peaceful death, but also for a positive rebirth to follow it, so that we can continue to work for the benefit of all living beings. Well, that was the death dissolution meditation. I'm going to turn on the other mic and see if anybody has something to share. Donn, are you live?
I'm in one of the outer realms, I think. That was lovely. Thank you.
I'm going to turn your mic up just a little bit here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
How's that?
Keep talking.
All right. Well, thank you for reading that, and I really, I wasn't focusing as great as I had hoped to on the visuals, but that was very interesting, and further propagates my interest in what happens when we check out, and there's some beautiful imagery there, and some pretty dismal stuff too.
Dismal?
Yeah. And I've only just started reading the Book of the Dead and contemplating these types of things, and so I'm new to all the imagery and the ideas, and really just read about Bardo just a couple weeks ago when I talked to you, and so I'm still taking all that in, but it's very intriguing, and I certainly plan on exploring the concept of making the now count, and even making the peace with for the next life. Keeping that in mind, that's probably one of the oldest Buddhist concepts I've been familiar with before I was ever interested in it, but I kind of forgot about that, and it's really resonating with me now.
You just experienced the death in the family.
That's right. Death of my father 2 weeks ago. And it's been a very wild ride in my distracted mind, and haven't been able to meditate as much as I'd like to during this time, nor any other time for that matter, but it's really slowed me way down in my own life, and made me think about all these things that you were just addressing, and certainly both my brother and myself commented to each other on the phone the other day that all of our superficial pressing worries that would have been awaiting us when we got home from any other trip seemed to kind of dissipate when we were coming back from this experience, such as, he has a family, I don't, but, stuff around the house and stuff having to do with work, and it's really just more like a hollow vessel feeling at this point, and that hasn't left me yet, so we'll see.
So, really, I think it's pretty incredible for someone who just experienced such a devastating loss to, really be willing to sit and go through a meditation on death. So would you say it was pretty, was it hard or?
Was it hard knowing that I was coming for that, or just now?
Going through the meditation on, I guess what I'm saying is that, if I'm experiencing painful feelings, I kind of rather distract myself normally.
Yeah.
But to sit and actually think about death and your own death, and having just experienced the death of someone close to you, it seems like it could be emotionally difficult.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. This whole thing has been very strange. The whole experience of the loss. I was sharing with somebody else who's been through the same thing, and we're on the same path. And my level of grief is not as big as the other facets of the loss seem to be, which is my reminiscing, my questions of why, and or even more so the amount of coincidences and the life experiences that I had even just this summer leading up to losing my father have been pretty uncanny. And so I've kind of been zen with it as much as I can, I suppose, and a little numb, and
a little zen and a little numb.
Yeah, and so and somehow there's been a pretty big overtone of death throughout with my peers and other people around me anyway, going through their own losses and possible losses and stuff right now. And and you could the Chinese may just say because it's fall, but I don't know. It's been pretty big this year, in this fall. A lot of loss or sickness and death going on in the past month and 2 months, and so now I'm just kind of enamored with what's up with that, and I know that you have a lot of knowledge, and so I didn't even hesitate to think about coming over to participate in this. I actually didn't know with what you had said in the message, if we would be meditating on death or discussing death, or what my role would be. But being able to hear that meditation was very good for me, I think. And
yeah, and you can hear it anytime because we're going to put it out there for the world.
That's right.
So, well, we're going to close up now, try to keep it under 30 minutes. And Taisa is in a deep state of meditative equipoise and has just given me the ixnay on the Eichmay. She does not want to talk, and I promised her she wouldn't have to. But you guys out there...
She looks very serene.
She does. And you guys out there in podcast land, you just know that Taisa was here with you doing this meditation. So, all right, everybody. Well, we'll be back in touch and back in tune another time very soon with podcast episode number 4. I'll be doing some book reviews that you can always check up on at the12stepbuddhist.com. Don't forget to order your pre-release copy of The 12-Step Buddhist at Amazon for $5 off the cover price if you order it today. I'll love it. Come on, get out there and do it, everybody. Listen, thanks everybody for listening. I appreciate the international support, all of the emails and Twitters and Facebook messages and MySpace and all that. It's fantastic. And we'll be talking to you again and again, I'm sure. Until then, peace.